Hello, and welcome back to Discovering an Educated Life. This is Megan, and today I'm going to be doing something I haven't done in a while. I'm actually just going to be talking about what we've been doing. I haven't done that because I just have talked so much about what we might be doing or what we might be changing or how we changed this or that, but I really haven't shown you what we've actually done this year. I haven't since about Christmas time. I don't know, I think I hit this crazy February slump and we were trying to do different things. And I was like, I haven't really showed anybody what we've actually done in a few months. And so I have about 6 weeks or so worth of curriculum, but we actually made it to be more like 10 to 12 weeks. And it's honestly what we've started doing after we came back from New Year's, like a week after New Year's. So this is kind of like, some of it was like we might have only done like 2 days of history or a day of science here and there, but we've completed all of it. But we're just gonna be talking about the history Bible and the books. History Bible books, that's what I'm gonna call it. So before I dig in, don't forget to hit like or subscribe. It's a real life video. So this is the coffee cup I have, my beat up Hello Kitty cup that I've had since my daughter was like 2 and she just turned 9. See all those scars of love on Hello Kitty there. And to be honest, this is like 2-hour-old coffee that was still in my coffee pot, but I do have a warmer, so I'm sure it's fine. Yep, I didn't have time to remake it. And there's probably more of my silk creme brulee in there than coffee. So that's why I can't taste the difference. Anyways, so let me dig in and tell you what we've been doing. So I let FOMO get the best of me this year. I had extreme fear of missing out, that there was more we could know. I don't want to say there's not even just that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but that there was more I could be teaching in every subject. I wanted to be doing it all. And then I would be like, well, we were learning ancient history before when we were doing sunlight, or we were learning this or this. And so I kept letting that get to me and thinking, maybe I should be teaching these more in-depth concepts. And I had to keep pulling myself back and saying my daughter's 8. Because, okay, so I know I did a video a while ago talking about how we were just gonna do science and do some block scheduling. Well, we tried that for a while. And I saw the light start coming out of my daughter's eyes. The drive to want to learn start turning off. And she loves history, so I was like, we can't do that. So then I started putting back in some history, but using the sunlight history that we had on the shelf that I had thought we would pick up at the end of the year or for the beginning of next year or just for some other time period. And again, the light was going out. It was too much. And the work that was hands-on was a lot more like notebooking than it was the projects and the fun stuff we were doing with My Father's World. There wasn't really what we were doing in My Father's World was a lot of cooking and just doing stuff together, and it was very natural. And when she had an assignment, it was more like notebooking, and it was very open, ended, that she could do whatever she wanted. I mean, not whatever she wanted, but it wasn't a very specific cut this here and write this in here type of project. And I just realized that this format wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. In my mind, we were gonna have something different, and I think I was just looking for the wrong things. I don't know where I was at with that, but I had to stop having that FOMO, and I had to pick back up what was working before. And I know I went back and forth quite a few times this year with what we were gonna use, and I haven't even announced it because I was like, I'm not gonna talk to anyone else about all my curriculum woes this year because they probably think I'm going crazy. And I'm just gonna do it. And so I started adding back in our adventures in U.S. history. I shouldn't have ever stopped, in my opinion. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I made this year, was pausing on this and trying to do other things to fill in gaps that weren't there. So to briefly recap for Bible this year, we've been using the Discover's Bible. It's a New International Reader's Version, so an NIRV. So it's an NIV, but has more of like a reader feel. It's definitely at an appropriate grade level for around a second to third grader. My daughter has a much higher reading level, but she's definitely capable. Like this is like still fine for her, even though she's reading at a higher level. So she's read a lot of scripture, a lot out of that. I also want to note that because we didn't do a straight 6 weeks, like every day doing just the adventures, she does Awana, and she filled in a lot with this, and not just in doing it, but I pulled like lessons from here as well, of things I thought would work for her. So we actually have still not been meeting in person. We've been doing the online, and we've actually missed quite a few weeks, but she's worked and filled out and done a lot of her verses and things. I'm trying to see, like, she's filled out a lot of her stuff in here. I don't want to share all that because it's personal stuff too, but that's the biggest thing. So on our Jesus poster, so we had the light of the world, the bread of life, the rock, the giver of living water. And since then we've added the way, Emmanuel, Lamb of God, and the vine. So all 4 of those names have been added. And she's also memorized those verses that went with those names of God. There's a verse for each one that we focused on. And then she's copied them and done an illustration. It's went into her Bible journal, which is just like a little binder of those pages for this year. And there's a few other things we added where she's done the sheets. So the latest one's on our fridge, which is the vine. I think the one before that was the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. She had Emmanuel. So that's all she really had for her Bible actual journal this year. And we did a few other things, like we were learning the disciples, and so I had her just write the names of the disciples, and we did a little craft there. That's pretty much what we've done for Bible. Is what we've actually done for history. So this is her binder. I just kind of want to dig in and show you what we've actually gotten done this year binder wise. So I think when I left off, we were probably around George Washington. I'm not positive. I didn't go back and watch that, but I will show you what we've done since George Washington, because he was about week 11, and I don't think we did a lot after that, because this is week 14. We started America the Beautiful. We really know America the Beautiful because we like listen to it over and over and over and over and over again. So then we did I think it was when we were doing whatever state has warm springs. I think it's Virginia. We did this, just a crossword puzzle. We have the Statue of Liberty, and we like read a bunch about it and watched some videos. We learned about Eli Whitney and the Cotton Gin, which is a current read aloud that I've been reading. We have 1 chapter left, and this book was really good. It was a old Sunlight book. I ordered it on Books, and they're my favorite. So I paired that with some books and some conversations and discussions on slavery, because my daughter was asking questions about what that meant, because, you know, the cotton gin was invented to help in the cotton process, like processing cotton, and slaves were the ones picking it, and they were the ones that were having to do the work. And so we're talking about somebody who invented something that made slavery profitable. And so then I was like, well, we have to pair that with something that's discussing the evils of slavery and not just discussing the benefits of an inventor in modern machinery. So we did that. And then we learned about the Louisiana Purchase. When we did that, my daughter she's doing better. These are all narrations. So when sometimes there's a picture, like this one is a picture she has, but then there's a narration that says, at the time Thomas Jefferson was president of the United States, the French owned New Orleans. Napoleon wanted warships to go to war with England, so he sold the land the French owned to Thomas Jefferson. And see, that's her narration. I think it's decent. I mean, it's pretty good for her age. And then we have just started on the Star Spangled Banner. We've done a lot of different stuff in Book Basket in that time. That doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm going to tell you everything else we did. Something else is every time she gets a state, She colors it. I think there's a couple missing, but whatever. I think she has a couple she needs to update on that she hasn't done. When we learned about how like the schools were during pioneer times, she made a New England primer. She actually has some old books that are kind of like this that she likes to look in, and they're fun. So she made this and read it a couple times. We discussed it. It's kind of like a little craft thing to do and discuss. So and then all of our songs came from this. And like I said, the only ones in the last 6 weeks have been, America the Beautiful. There's also, we didn't have a sheet for this, but it was There Are Many Flags. And Now We're Doing the Star Spangled Banner. And honestly, like I said, that was 10 to 12 weeks. So we really know those songs. Like we listen to them a lot. So now I'm going to tell you about a couple of the actual history texts we've used. The first book is going to be American Pioneers and Patriots by Christian Liberty Press. I think when I left off, we had just covered George Washington as a boy. Then we moved on. So since then, we've done the Pioneers going west. And this is them traveling on the Wilderness Trail. So as we learned about the Wilderness Trail, we talked about Daniel Boone, and we learned about like just a journey dress and how it would have been to travel that way. This is all from a child's perspective. This book, if you don't know, is written like from a child's perspective. It looks like a textbook, but it is not like a normal textbook. We talked about how the pioneers made cloth. We've witnessed that and even helped in that process on working farms a couple of times. So we had some cotton here we used. And then we did the story of the pioneers on the Ohio River. And when we did that, we just, it's very self-explanatory. We learned about the Ohio River, and we learned about Ohio that week. Just like the week we did the Wilderness Trail, we did Kentucky for our state. And then this is like what pioneer schools were like, and that's when we made the little New England primer. And anytime you finish a unit, like here, we have questions and we have things to do. Sometimes we'll pick something and sometimes we don't, but we do usually use the questions. Most of the time we use the questions to discuss afterwards. So that's everything from American Pioneers and Patriots. The next book is The Story of the U.S. And honestly, we haven't done too much, I think, since the last time we talked. We did a little bit more on George Washington because we had done one section on him. We covered, like I said, Daniel Boone. We read about him in here, and we got through that part. And then we did the Eli Whitney section, and we've just gotten to Robert Fulton in the steamboat. Oh no, we also did the Louisiana Purchase. So that's everything we've done out of this textbook. That's 6 weeks, but it's not crammed, so it feels like relaxed, but we've read a lot of other books in the meantime. So we've also done a lot of state studies, and that's key too. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about states first now, what we've done in our state studies. So as we've learned about the states, something else that's been very key that I've used is this Atlas of American History. Like you see, I only picked it up for like $1 at the thrift store, but we've used it and just, there's a lot of maps and discussion of how the states were formed, and we're doing them all in chronological order of how they were added to the Union. So that's been great. And you might notice, if you know anything about adventures, or just if you're wondering where these state studies are coming from, I didn't have the sheets in her binder because I made this. It's just all of the student sheets that were states in order. I bound them at Staples, and this is what they look like. So if she has a state, she does the flowers, the bird, she puts the sticker, because we have the whole sheet of stickers. Those are the ones she's already done missing. And then she puts the flag, and then she puts the postal abbreviation code. It shows where the state is located down here. And then she's gonna like map it back here. There's like a little United States map up here, right here. And then she's gonna map it on this map as well. So that's what we do. And then she traces it. Instead of coloring it in, because she uses colored pencils, I just have her trace it to get a feel for the shape of that state. And then on the back, there's a bunch of facts about the state, and we tandem read that together. So she's done Pennsylvania, she's Delaware and Pennsylvania. She also did New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut. Like I said, we've done a lot of states, even though it doesn't seem like we did a lot in those textbooks for 6 to 10 weeks of school. Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, She did New Hampshire, Virginia, New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio. And then the last one we've done is Louisiana, when we did the Louisiana Purchase. So a lot of it was done so well because like the Louisiana Purchase was paired with Louisiana, and there happens in order. So the curriculum's written so well to just get chronological history and chronological states added to the Union. And so we've taken time to review and things on the states. But real quick, because you're probably like, what does a state study mean? So first, she does what I showed you over here. She locates them. She gets out her U.S. Atlas and she reads about the state. Her stickers are always kept right here in the back for her to add over there on the wall. She reads about the state. If it's a region we haven't covered, she reads about the region because there's regional sections as well. Then this is another little book I had just picked up, and it has every state. So she can look at the bird and the tree and the flower and the state and some information. It's older, the information's outdated, but the pictures are great. She also, this came with My Father's World, has flashcard style, just they're what she's using. She's using like Prismacolor, so whatever she's using, they're here. So she has those cards that she uses to illustrate and do her notebooking page. And then when we complete all that and we read the story, when we sit down to read the back of the page together, we sit down and read from It Happened in America, true stories from the 50 states. And every state, I'll open to one, Illinois, come to the fair, ride the first Ferris wheel. So it'll have background information on Illinois. It'll have a story about Illinois. And this one is 1, 2, 3, see, there's some more of it. I'm just trying to give you a feel for how long it is, and that's all of it. So, but there's one for every state in here. So that kind of gives her like a mental peg. Like we did New Jersey, we talked about Monopoly being like the boardwalk at the Jersey Shore. Like it just gives you something to have a mental peg of that state. So it's not just a random sticker you're putting on there and you're not really learning anything about it. And so that's been helpful. Also, the book basket has been very helpful and like really fleshing out those state studies and making us know about the states. Now I'm just gonna start going through books, telling you how we use them, what we use them for. I'm not gonna tell you what they're from. Some of them are book basket list suggestions. Some of them are things I had on my shelf. Some of them are things from Sunlight. Some of them are just things I picked up that went with the topic. Some of them have nothing to do with the topic. There's a lot of books here, guys, because this is like 10 weeks worth or more. So like I said, this is a long video. If you're still bearing with me, definitely hold out for this book list because we did some great books. I'm gonna start with current. She just started this today. Robert Fulton, Boy Craftsman by Margaret Henry. This is obvious, like we're learning about the steamboat and we're learning about Robert Fulton. So I started her on reading that. Farmer Boy was a read aloud we finished a while ago. We started on The Bakes of Plum Creek after that. Then those are kind of self-explanatory titles. Everyone knows Laura Ingalls Wilder. We've read a lot of her other titles. I've talked about them before. We also, this is a new read aloud I just started, The Lewis and Clark Expedition by Richard L. Neuberger, and it's a landmark book. This was an old Sunlight book. When we did Pennsylvania, I had this beat, Abby's read aloud. It was her reader. She read to me every day, and it was Who Was Milton Hershey. She loved this. She wants to go to Hershey, Pennsylvania so bad, and she was really interested in that book. On that topic, this is the only other, well, there might be another one we did, was Who Was Harriet Tubman. She picked this up at a local bookstore and wanted to read it, and she loved it. She loves a lot of this series, and she learned a lot. She loves reading things like that really give her educational value. So this is back around the presidential election. I just don't think I ever got a chance to share it, is what is a presidential election. And she read that, and it actually came with like a little like map to color on election night. So she did do this. And then I'll just start digging in here. So these are other ones she read. She read Tippy Limmy. This one I don't think was Sunlight. Yeah, that was a Sunlight. That was a reader she read aloud. This I already had on the shelf. It was a Cynthia Rylant, The Lighthouse Family, The Storm. She loved this so much. My mom actually got her for Christmas, because that happened right around Christmas time, this whole Cobble Street Cousins collection. So if you are My Father's World users and you're using adventures, I thought this was a great series. It has In Aunt Lucy's Kitchen, a little shopping, special gifts, some good news, summer party, and wedding flowers. And so she read this whole series. I kind of guessed this was kind of a book basket time kind of thing, and it was just really fun and not like a lot of the modern literature books for kids that are just like they're being mean to each other, and it wasn't like that at all. It was a really good series, and I was really glad my mom got her that. So we had this on the shelf again. I think somebody gifted me, I know who it was, gifted me a whole core of Sunlight, and it happened to be American History a long time ago, and it's been on my shelf forever. So we did a lot of these. The Skippick School. This was a really good book about, I'm just going to tell you real quick. It says, I'm not going to read all these, but this one says, it is barely 100 years after the Plymouth colony was founded. Eli's family has left Germany and come to America to enjoy the religious freedom that is here. Having recently converted, they intend to join a small community of plain people, Mennonites, on the Skippick Creek, northwest of Philadelphia. Eli is excited about the move and all that it means, except for one thing: school. So it's kind of like putting you in that time period of a one-room schoolhouse in a Mennonite area in Pennsylvania. So before I dig into all these book basket books, I wanted to share this resource we were using. It's old-fashioned farm life coloring book, and it says it's from Greenfield, Ohio, but as we read through a lot of the Farmer Boy, this is what I gave my daughter to color as we were reading. So just wanted to share that. I picked that up at a local school supply store, and she had a good time reading that. So I'm gonna dig into book basket. This is just more books we read. So 6 Silver Spoons. This is Paul Revere book basket book. I don't even know. A lot of these were on our shelf, and I just pulled them. She read these on her own, but again, I would say this is considered a book basket thing. Meet Addie, and it talks a lot about slavery and post-slavery life. Johnny Appleseed, Folktale by Stephen Kellogg. The Little House craft book. We also have the cookbook, but she's probably run off with that somewhere because she read that a lot. Cool Kids Cook Louisiana. We made red beans and rice with the curriculum, but then we also found this interesting. There was a lot of different recipes and stuff in here, Cajun Creole style, so it's more of a unique flavor of food, and that's why I liked the cookbook to pair with that. Our 50 States, I've shared this a few times, but we've kept that in the book basket all year, along with the National Parks of the USA, great book for book basket and adventures. Also, just this giant 50 States book. If you don't have these, buy them for your kids, even if you don't homeschool. They're awesome, and my daughter's learned a lot from them. I don't assign them, they're just in the basket. Colonial Days, another book basket book. We have done a lot of, this has like a lot of crafts and stuff in it and projects. We've done some of those, I won't say a lot of them, but a handful of them, and she's just kind of read through a lot of that on her own. This one we're just about to start getting into, a Pioneer Sampler. It's more the time period we're focusing on now. There's stories and crafts and projects and different things in this. So that one. We've done Elvis is King when we did Tennessee. So like I said, a lot of books that I've picked up, I just threw in the basket that I thought this correlates well with that time period. Snowflake Bentley, we've done this 1,000 times. This is one of her favorite books. We colored snowflakes with this technique we learned with Crayola markers, and then you watercolor in where the Crayola watercolor markers are, just the standard regular like pipsqueaks we had. And we learned that technique with the berry stebbing I Can Do All Things video. So it happened to be right when we were doing Snowflake Bentley. So we made, I'll try to put a picture up here of those we did. And then Christmas in Williamsburg was in there, even though it's not anywhere near Christmas. This was in there from like Christmas through February. And it's just like pictures of the like what Colonial Williamsburg has. The what the town was like. These are from, there's like a, in the village, there's like actual, this is from 1970, the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, all rights reserved. So these are like pictures they took then in the 1970s of like reenactments and things. So I thought that was really cool. I actually didn't read it, as you can tell. Mary Getty's Day, A Colonial Girl in Williamsburg. This I thought was hilarious. I think this was when we did South Carolina, because my daughter had this on the shelf already and I was like, oh, this is cute. They're actually in South Carolina. This may even have been when I saw in the book basket, but we already had it. And she loves anything to do with animals. So this book was perfect. And so I grabbed it and threw it in the book basket, and I was like, it had Doc Animal, because if you were anybody, or if you were anything like me during COVID, you watched Joe Exotic and all of that craziness. And I thought it was hilarious that that's what this book was that she already had. Hey Charleston, The True Story of the Jenkins Orphanage Band and Rockwell. This was a really good storyline. I read it before she did, but it's about like rag music. And I think I was trying to see if it had like the little explanations. What happened when a former slave took beat up old instruments and gave them to a bunch of orphans? Thousands of futures got a little brighter and a great American art form was born. The band's style of music, rag, a rhythm inspired by the African American people who lived in the South Carolina and Georgia coast. So it's rag style. This was really cool. I liked that book. She read it on her own though. I just pre-read it. The Rag Coat, this one is, again, that's been on our shelf forever. And we've read a lot. This is another one that we've read a bunch of times, but we did, I think both of those were 5 in a row books. When I was young in the mountains, but when we were doing like Appalachia, I threw that in there. This is not all that we did. This is what I had sitting on hand that I knew of like right now. My hair is like going wild today. Okay, Going Someplace Special. It's silly. I actually like bought this and then I had it on the shelf too. So I was losing it. But this is about segregated 1950s Nashville, and the only place in town that this little girl can go is the public library. I actually have another one that's like segregated, but they can't go to the library. The little boy can't go to the library. And his friend, I think, they can't go. So giving her books like this has helped her to understand what segregation means, because she was kind of confused over the last year when we would talk about segregation and things that were happening, like why the civil rights movement happened and what was going on. And she's like, well, why couldn't they just go? Like, it was very confusing to her. Oh, we had another one and I don't see it sitting here that we did. This is Band of Angels, a true story inspired by Jubilee singers. And this is about, there was a girl who was a slave, and her daughter, I think, is the one that becomes a Jubilee singer, and the group she was in went on to save Fisk University. And it has like the little family. This obviously was an ex-library book. I get a lot of books from the thrift store or discarded library books or from Abe Books. Yeah, so this is when she's from Nashville. So I try to find books from a certain area. Pioneer Girl, that's self-explanatory. Laura Ingalls Wilder, we've done a ton with that this year. A Question of Yams. We read Missionary Story. It was a pretty easy reader. My daughter read it, and this one was, this was a Sunlight book, I think, that she read aloud to me. It's just in this pile. Purple Mountain Majesties, the true story of Catherine Lee Bates and America the Beautiful. We also did like Ted Geisel, his biography, which was, he's Dr. Seuss. And we did Louisa May and Mr. Thoreau, like Henry David Thoreau and Louisa May Alcott, how they had like a friendship when she was a child and he was an adult and he inspired her. America the Beautiful, this is literally just the song but with pictures. So I threw that in there while we were doing, obviously, state capitals. So we always like books like this. This is from Usborne, just to do in our book basket time. Album of Horses by Margaret Henry, and I don't have it sitting here because we were reading it at night lately. I have a copy of Justin Morgan Had a Horse, also by Margaret Henry, on the shelf upstairs. Once Upon a Time by Eric Sloane, another great book basket book. This one has really good pictures of things used in these time periods, so I thought that was cool. When we were doing Daniel Boone, we had This Famous Frontiersman. Has Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, Meriwether Lewis, and William Clark, and it had the text. There you go. It's an older book, but that one's been a good one for her book basket. It's like an old Rand McNally book. I thought that was really cool. I found that I got the thrift store or something. I think that's it. To be honest with you, that's not it. We've done like way more than that. That's just what I have on hand. I'm like, oh no, it's not it. I have so many books in front of me, I couldn't see them. So this is just a few books we read. And like I said, I'm not gonna go, just these. So this was our Read-Aloud Revival. I've talked about this one already. We loved Adventures with Waffles. In Read-Aloud Revival, then we watched, we didn't sit in on it, but we actually got to watch the author speak. And then she talked about being inspired by Astrid Lindgren. So we read Pippi Longstocking, and then we realized we had Happy Times in Noisy Village, also by Astrid Lindgren, on our shelf from our Sunlight books from Corby. So we did all of those and kind of put them together, and those were all read-alouds I did for a while. That's 10 weeks of books, guys. Like, honestly, there's more. There's probably half a shelf more than what I even have sitting in front of me, but that's a lot, and that's what I'm sharing. And I hope to keep you updated more instead of just cramming all that down your throat at the same time that I'm giving you 1,000 things at once. So something else I wanted to quickly share was just the pictures of where we have been in our timeline. So in our timeline, like I said before, we keep a book of centuries. So she has quite a few things in her book of centuries right here in the 18th century, and she's just got into the 19th century, adding the Louisiana Purchase. So there's probably a few other things she's added or done. I had to switch it because I haven't even put a cover in it yet because our old one fell apart, the binder, because we use it so much. So we've had it for like 3.5 years. So that's what we've been doing. I know that seems like a lot. I just was like going through so many things at once. But I just want to say, don't have FOMO, guys. I've had the worst case of fear of missing out this year that I've ever had when it comes to our homeschool life, because I constantly was feeling like she could learn more. And it's like the idea I was hearing about, but you could be doing more. You could do more. And no, you can't. You need to do less most of the time. And when we were trying to like fit in all that sunlight with anything hands-on, we were completely drained. And I'm not telling you don't use sunlight, but I have this idea that like My Father's World wasn't enough. It's just not enough. It's too light. It's not enough. It's not fun enough. I don't want to say not fun enough. It's just like, it's not intense enough is kind of what my mindset was with it. And when I just slowed down and was okay with just doing it as written and just doing like a book basket of books for her to read and not for me, and doing because I kept trying to assign things, I think, earlier in the year and getting overwhelmed by the fact that we weren't having a schedule that was better with it, but that's not the goal. It's not to assign readings. It's okay if you want to like read some books here and there, like we did with Sign of the Beaver or with Nyanuki, or with some of these ones that we read that were really good, that I just showed you. But it's also okay to just do the curriculum as written. and have a good book basket and have some things in there for her to read and give her that time every day, and that's fine too. And you see how much we've accomplished, but in my mind, we could have done more, and you could always do more. Like literally, you're never gonna reach a point where you couldn't have done more unless you're doing school from the time you get up until the time you go to bed every day. You're always gonna feel like you could have done more. So what I've been telling my daughter and myself and my husband is, when I feel like we could have done more, I keep saying, but we could have went outside more, but we could have went to the park more, but we could have watched another Magic School Bus together, or we could have went to the library today. Instead of thinking of we could have done more school, I've been like scaling that back to like, but we could have done more things together with friends. We could have had more time to color a picture together, or have dinner together, or have a picnic, or anything we want in the world, and not done another workbook page or made it look more like school at home, because I kept having this mindset that it doesn't look enough like school. And I'm gonna tell you guys, it doesn't need to look like school. I don't know where my mind has been this year, but it definitely, I had a lot of fear, I think, because of not having co-op, and I had a lot of fear at the beginning of the year when we weren't having co-op, and then as we got back into things, like I still was having this fear that like she missed a lot of things, but what she missed was interaction, and what she missed was real life experiences. She wasn't missing education benefits. She definitely got that. She definitely knows more today than she knew in August, and she has improved in a lot of areas. And the thing she missed was free time, and the thing she missed was interaction with other people. So keep that in mind when you feel like you're just having this crazy bit of FOMO over homeschool curriculum. When you see the other person and it looks all put together, just remember that it's all put together because they put the time in and they organized it. It doesn't look all put together because that curriculum's better. It just is that's what works for that family, and maybe she put more effort in than you. I'm not saying it in a way like, I know that sounds horrible, but I had a problem with that. I kept thinking that like I saw someone else and it looked so organized and pretty, and I'm like, but that's not my personality, and I'm never gonna have that organization. I know I didn't mean it to sound like I'm attacking you, like she put more effort in. It's more of like that's her personality. I have to remember that. Like she can make it look that way because that's how her personality is. And I could use that curriculum and it's gonna look like my giant piles of books I have sitting in front of me right now. And it's gonna look like my eclectic, haphazard way of doing things. That's what it's gonna look like because that's me. And I've just learned to focus on what I'm doing and the task at hand and the curriculum I'm using right now. And please keep that in mind. If you're a new homeschool mom, if you're a homeschool mom that's been doing it for 5 years, if you're a homeschool mom that's having a crisis this year due to just curriculum overload videos, I didn't want to share what we're doing next year yet. I actually purchased like 3 different things and have sent them back. Like 3 separate curriculums and have sent them back because I kept buying something and feeling like, well, I saw this person had this video and it looked great. And then I bought it and was like, oh, that's not what I thought it was gonna feel like when I was looking through it. So 3 times I've done that. I finally placed an order this week for something. And so where everyone else is sharing these like homeschool hauls for next year, I'm over here like, I just got the 2nd semester done because we're gonna be year-round schoolers this year. So I feel like we're just now to like we just got through week 21. So yeah, that's where we are. Like we're further in language arts and math, but that's where we are. We've done 21 weeks of curriculum and we'll be schooling throughout the summer, not like intense. We're still gonna take a break and we're still gonna have time off, but we're definitely year-round schoolers anyways. Like we take time off when we want it. So I know I've rambled and I keep going on, but just remember, focus on your week. Focus, don't look forward to next year yet. Don't do it. Like don't look forward to even 2 weeks from now or the summer. Focus on like today. What do I need to teach this week? That's what I've started doing. What am I teaching this week? Oh, we're doing plants. This is a cute idea. We'll do this plant idea. Like stop focusing 2 months ahead and then forget what you're doing today. Well, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and Keep following me for more random rambling homeschool advice. Have a good week.